like everybody pretty much knows me. I'm Deputy Jannett, Goodhue County Sheriff's Office. Almost every week we come up with a weekly blotter, which is basically just a brief of what our deputies have been doing during the week, what calls they've responded to, traffic stops, stuff like that. Ours is a little unique because we get to add a little bit of humor to ours. So Rosie asked me to come here and just talk a little bit about that and why we do that.
Oh, can we ask you questions during?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Okay, because I was going to say before, I was putting this on the internet, what you're doing, and a man called me and his voice was he was upset. And so he said, are you writing this? And I said, no, I'm just doing the intro. And then his voice, everything changed. Because she has a sense of humor. And I, as a non-police person, could not put in her sense of humor. And I would not have the right, because I don't know what's funny or what's not funny to a cop. What's funny to me may not be at all funny to a cop, which I have found out. Okay. So anyway, so thank you for your sense of humor, that
Of course.
and for being you, not me doing
Yeah.
it.
So Rosie asked me to just add some examples of some of the blotter notes that I've made, and some of the commentary that I add to it. So for those of you that don't read the blotter, I'll just give you a minute to read through some of these. Because I know not everybody's on Facebook, but...
Oh, it's very light. Could you read it?
Sure. Sure, so it says, Hay Creek Township, suspicious activity was reported when a vehicle pulled into a driveway and a passenger from the vehicle was walking around the property with a flashlight.
Yeah.
The suspects were located by another agency, and the person who got out of the vehicle turned out to be an intoxicated, estranged relative that used to live at the property. The suspects returned the next day to deliver an apology note. At the request of the residents, they were trespassed from the property. Sometimes it's best to relive the past via memories and photos and not in person.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of one of those times. Here's one where I kind of lecture somebody a little bit. This was a theft in Red Wing. So a theft of 10 birdhouses from a nonprofit organization whose mission is to maintain the property and enhance the habitat, wildlife, and recreational needs of the community. Anyone who steals from a nonprofit whose purpose benefits everybody should be beyond ashamed of their actions. They should be embarrassed of themselves, and we hope they will get their life right, because as of now, it needs work. We cover a lot of scams, and we always encourage people to talk to their relatives and families about scams. This is just one of those. Fraud was reported after the victim received a phone call and was told that he won the lottery and a car. The victim was told he had to pay taxes to receive the prizes. The victim sent $500. Please talk to your elderly relatives so they do not become a victim of this scam. This one's kind of a long one, but it's we have quite a few DWIs lately. So this one started as a driving complaint about a drunk driver, led deputies to locating the vehicle. While following the vehicle, they saw the driver cross the center line, which caused an oncoming vehicle to swerve to avoid a collision. The vehicle was stopped, and the 22-year-old driver didn't have proof of insurance. They didn't have a valid driver's license, and also the registration on the vehicle was expired. Although the driver said they only had one beer, they displayed multiple signs of intoxication, including slurring words, watery, bloodshot eyes. They failed field sobriety test, and a .17 VRAC confirmed that inkling that they had more than one beer. After the driver was told they were under arrest, they decided to resist. That did not work out the way they wanted it to. The driver also had 2 juveniles in their vehicle. The driver was charged with second-degree DWI, obstruction, driving after revocation, and no proof of insurance. To say terrible decisions were made that night is an understatement. So here's one that Rosie pointed out to me, adding compassion to some of the posts. So Pine Island Township, deputies responded to a residence after an adult smoked some meth that put him into a psychosis. For the safety of everybody involved, the adult was brought to the hospital. And not only does the humor add to the post, but showing compassion also does too, because it shows the community that we don't just haul people to jail. It shows the parents, if a parent is experiencing this with their kids, they know we're not going to just show up and haul their kid off to jail. We're going to work with them to try and make a good decision, to try and get this person the help that they need. So that's why we add compassion to it also. So overall, it's become more common for law enforcement agencies and officers to use humor and lighter social media content to portray themselves as human and approachable. and that's to aim to create a sense of community and foster trust. This approach is often seen as humanizing the badge, which I'm sure you guys have heard quite a bit, and it aims to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. Humor can help dispel the image of law enforcement as a distant and intimidating person, and it can also make officers appear more relatable and approachable. It builds trust by showcasing the human side. Agencies aim to build trust and rapport with the communities they serve, fostering a more positive relationship. So on our social media, I see every comment, every like is a positive interaction with the community. And we want our community to feel like they know us. So when I show up to events and people find out I'm the one that write this, it seems like they have an easy time talking to me. Oh, I love the goat jokes. Oh, I love when you do this. I love when you do that. And it opens up lines of communication.
Wait, they actually say they like the goat jokes?
Some people do. I don't know why.
Are you familiar with? Okay, good.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing that the Weekly Blotter does is it kind of tricks people into learning. Using tactics such as compassion and comedy, we can bring people back to our page where we can add education, such as how not to get scammed, or that they can call us for certain things like driving complaints. A lot of people don't know. They think they can never use their cell phone on the road when they're driving. If there's an emergency, then we want you to call us. We also use this way to educate people about our needs, how to best help them. Like this, for example, there was a snowstorm, and a lot of our deputies were saying we're trying to get to these calls, but nobody's shoveling. We can't. The paramedics are trying to get in, and nobody's shoveling. So this is just a reminder to everybody: if you want us to get there as fast as we can, you got to clear off those paths for us. So when I write the Weekly Blotter, this is basically the screen that I start with. So for the week of 2/6 to 3/4, the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office had 424 calls for service. So this is what my screen looks like, and it's pretty limited as to what I can actually show you. So I break them down by the disposition. So if there's an arrest, or if it was unfounded, or if there was a report written, or if another agency took care of it. So when I click on, like for example, for this one, I clicked on, I think the traffic stop, which resulted in that resulted in the arrest. So I click on that, and then that's the information that I have. So it was a traffic stop. The vehicle went over the fog lines. They were arrested for DWI and open containers. So from here, I can click on the report, and then I can get the information from the report. And then I can also click on log and get a little bit more information there. So every call for service I go through, so like I said, we had 400 and something for that 1 week period. I read every single call. I don't post about any juvenile abuse, sexual assaults, deaths, or self-harm calls. If anyone involved in the case, including the reporting party or even the suspect, asked to not be posted in the Weekly Blotter, the deputies are pretty good about letting me know, like, hey, they don't want this in the Weekly Blotter, and I won't put it in there. We've had multiple suspects, people that have gotten arrested, saying, please don't put this in the Weekly Blotter. So with writing this, I have to find a balance between that comedy, the compassion, and not re-victimizing the victims. Because the last thing we want to do is bring more trauma to people or, hurt the relationship that we have with the community in any way. So if a call has a report attached to it, I'll read the report. I have to be very selective about the information that I share in the blotter from the report, because that's not public record, because the case is probably still open. If there's no report, then I read the blotter notes, and I'll speak to the deputy for more details if I need more details. So when I start off a report, I break it down by the categories. So it starts with the week. I always put the domestics at the top. This is always in there. Just says, if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, please contact us. We can help. If you don't feel comfortable contacting law enforcement, please contact the Hope Coalition, and then with their phone number. And the Hope Coalition part was added as a suggestion from somebody from the community. So we thought that was a great addition to that. So then I just break it down by category. The hide and seek eliminations are just warrant arrests. That category came from, there was a warrant arrest at some point, and I made some comment about the guy wasn't very good at hide and seek. So then from then on, it turned into that category of hide and seek eliminations.
I love it.
Yeah, damage to property, theft, fraud, animal complaints, DWIs, and then traffic stops.
Goat jokes.
Yeah, that goes under the animal complaints because they are terrible.
Go jokes.
And the goat jokes are an animal complaint, yes. So we use compassion, frustration, sense of humor for each entry to help humanize the badge. It's a line of communication between law enforcement and the public, and it's also a tool that can be used to educate the public. Adding humor, frustration, and compassion is that's what brings people back for the next week to learn more. I feel like if it was just a boring, this is what we did, this is what happened, this is what we did, this is what happened, I feel like we'd lose a lot of readers, so. So humor is a way to relate with people of all ages. It's universal language. These are some of the things that I put together when I was giving a presentation on internet safety for some high school kids. One of the topics that we covered was sending naughty pictures to people and then getting scammed, and then those people demanding that they send money back. So I basically put these together as a rule of thumb. If you don't want your grandparents to see it, then do not send it to anyone. If seeing it will ruin your grandparents' day, do not send it, because that's exactly what the scammers are threatening, to send those pictures back to their families. So I try to push that. If they don't want their grandparents to see it, then nobody should see it. And then that's one of the other ones that I used. If you don't want to be the reason why family dinners have become awkward, then don't send it. So the goat jokes. I'm not even sure where these came from. It was one call about a goat one week, and then the next week there was no mention of goats, and all the comments said, well, what about the goats? We need goats. Blame it on the goats. So ever since then, there's pretty much always been a goat joke, and the few weeks that I've missed, somebody always points it out. I don't have a great place to get goat jokes from. I get them from Google and reader suggestions. That's it. I'm not coming up with these. I'm not that funny. So not to say that these are funny. They are terrible. So this is just another cop humor thing that is one of my favorite things. I always share with my friends. Some days we have days like this where we're sitting eating donuts and yeah. So that's what I have for you on the weekly blotter.